it's Mr. Pete, and I am about to start part 3 of the one and only Bob. In part 1, we learned a lot of backstory about Bob. Some of it we already knew from the one and only Ivan, and this is the point in the story where I should tell you, if you haven't read the one and only Ivan, please, 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 get the one and only Ivan and read that book first. It gives you a lot of backstory about all the characters that I assume we're going to be meeting in this book. You definitely want to read that book first. But part 1 was, and book 1 was really all of that backstory. We got to learn a little bit more about Bob that we didn't know in the one and only Ivan, a lot of details about his family, and specific details about how he ended up getting to the Big Top Mall and Video Arcade. Part 2, we get a little bit of backstory about Bob as he has lived with Julia and George, and we have found out that he, over the course of a year, has become a fairly pampered pet. But you can still hear him talk like the old Bob, but his actions aren't matching his words. He is a pampered, lazy dog, but he still has that mentality of being left by humans. He also hates cars, which is where we left off and where we're going to start today with options. Now, I do want to give you some precursor here. I'm about to enter a word that I have messed up 600 times, and I've started this video over 3 different times. So we shall see if I get it right, and when I get it right, you'll probably hear me celebrate a little bit. All right, here we go. Options. Still haven't been in a car, or a truck, or a tractor for that matter. When I have to go to the rhymes with a pet threat, Julia and her parents walk me there. That. I should have probably asked you that. That's not the word. They say elephants have long memories. Well, so do dogs, people. It's not like I'm afraid. I'm just exercising my options. Full wag. Are you ready to head over to the park? George asks as he passes through the living room. He's carrying 2 flashlights and a roll of masking tape. Yep, Julia says, and I do a head tilt to show I'm intrigued by the conversation. The place where Ivan and Ruby lived is called Wild World Zoological Park and Sanctuary, but everybody just calls it the park. George works at the park as head groundskeeper, which means I've got some sway, and everyone who's employed there loves Julia. Give me a minute, I just need to grab my coat, says George. Straight home after that, though, Julia, says Sarah, just in case the weather gets worse. One minute the weatherman's saying we're gonna have a little shower, next minute it's the storm of the century. Julia scratches my head. I thought Hurricane Gus wasn't coming till tomorrow. Sometimes they change course, says Sarah. They can be unpredictable. So we're probably in the land of foreshadowing now. This Hurricane Gus is on its way. And they keep mentioning it slowly, more and more, and now we're kind of at the point where this storm's about to hit. You know, George says with a wink, in the old days, they'd only named hurricanes after women. Julia groans. That's so sexist. It's not just the wind that I'm worried about on this one, George says. It's the storm surge that could be a problem. Flooding. Foreshadowing. Julia tries to make me wear Mom's latest creation, a knitted dog sweater with security written on it, which I suppose is an ironic reference to my petite size. That is irony. I politely decline. All right, you win, Julia sighs. Ready for your walk, Bob? At the mention of the word walk, I go all crazy mutt, so it's clear I'm on board with the idea. Humans love it when we get silly. I think they're so weighed down by people problems that sometimes they need to be reminded what happy looks like. Truth. Julia attaches my string. I try for a little tug of war, but she refuses to buy it. Let's go see Ivan and Ruby, she says. Just hearing those names sends my tail into full wag. Good words, bad words. I've never met a dog who didn't get a big old grin on his kisser when Walk slipped into the conversation. Dogs understand more than you might think. The Nature Channel says we're about as smart as the average human toddler. 2-year-olds, my fuzzy rump, we're 1,000,000 times brainier than some babbling rug rat. There was a dog on that man's best friend show who supposedly understood like 1,000 human words. Border Collie, I think. Those guys need to switch to decaf. The narrator was gushing about this wonder dog, and I'm like, well, duh, Brainiac, of course we understand people.
Meet Chaser, the 9-year-old border collie that knows more than 1,000 words. She's like any other dog that likes to play, but what sets her apart is her great knowledge of the human language. Chaser can understand verbs and pronouns given in commands by owner and retired Wofford College professor John Pilley.
Chase, Bob. Chase. Nose ribbon ball. Nose ribbon. Yeah, good girl.
She can specifically mimic actions performed by Pilley.
You do it. You do it. Do it, girl. Do it. Do it. Do it, girl. Do it. Do it. No, Chase. Do it. Do what I did. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it, girl. Do it. Again. Again. Chase again. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl.
But what Pilley says is her greatest feat is Chaser can understand syntax. That is, understanding the order of a command within a sentence.
Chase. To ring neck, take KG. Do it, girl. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Yes, good girl. Good girl.
Chaser is still a puppy at heart, sometimes even a little demanding,
we
says
know one
Pilley.
another. What she wants me to do is to tell her to go to the bedroom. And she wants to jump on the bed. But she also wants me to do this. And I have no idea why that excites her.
But Chaser's best quality may just be how to love.
Give me a hug. Give me a hug. Give me a hug. It's as though that's built into her system too.
Not everything, mind you, and some of us are more attentive than others. Depends a lot on just how interesting your humans happen to be. Certain words will really cause our ears to perk up. The classics: treat, walk, frisbee, bacon. And don't forget the swear words: vet, bath, fireworks, vacuum cleaner. We always hear those. Boy, that is the truth. Clock versus moon. Julie and I wait by the front door while George says goodbye to Sarah. I think maybe the hardest thing for me about being domesticated, a pet if you insist, is that I can't control my own schedule. If I had my way, I'd hang out with Ivan and Ruby all day, every day. Unfortunately, humans love their clocks. Dogs, we use the sky to tell time, like any sensible creature. Sky says it's dawn, time to eat. It's noon, time to eat. It's afternoon, time to eat. It's dusk, time to eat. It's midnight, time to eat. Point is, it's always time to eat. Dogs have a thing for the moon too, like wolves and coyotes and our other relatives. No calendars for us. Moon looks like a claw. Moon looks like half a pancake. Moon looks like a tennis ball. Moon looks like a claw again. Chunk of time has passed.
New moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases. Oh.
But humans, nope, that's not enough. It's not a chunk, it's a month. It's not just dawn, it's 6:32 a.m. on a Thursday, and boy oh boy, we'd better hurry up and go to school or the office or change the baby, but who gives a woof about feeding a poor, starving, sad-eyed, grumbling, tummied dog? After a spell, I got used to the comings and goings of Julia and her mom and dad, but it keeps changing. Julia leaves early for school and is gone most of the day. She returns home excited and energized, good sense mostly, but every now and then she comes back smelling a little like me after a visit to the dog trainer. Battle weary and ready to crawl under the covers. Simile. Sarah, who was pretty sick for a while, is feeling fine again. Thank goodness. But she went back to work and she's away all day too. And George, who has a job at Ivan's place, works 5, sometimes 6 days a week. That means it's just me and the guinea pigs a lot of the time. I have a dog adore and an outside run, but it's not the same as touring the neighborhood with your person. Peeing without a potential audience is like talking to yourself. That's a great simile. Make sure you record that one, and make sure you tell me what 2 things are being compared. Sometimes I'm the teensiest bit jealous of Ivan and Ruby. They always have someone around, which is crazy, I know. I'm free, and they're not. But there it is. I told you, I'm not a saint. You can see right there. He's got it good, but he's left alone, and he's just doesn't have a lot of things to do. The shelter. I know our route to Ivan and Ruby by heart. I can't help tugging a bit, even though I'm not supposed to. It's been a couple days since I've seen my pals, and I need my friend fix like I need air and water and belly rubs. We don't live far, down to the end of the street, around the corner, good news source there, then a few more blocks. He walked around a corner, and of course, corners are great places where dogs always like to use the restroom, so you can find a lot of news out by smelling their aromas. When I walk Julia, well, okay, I suppose it looks like she's walking me, but I beg to differ. There's a place we pass that always makes me jumpy and bummed. It's the animal shelter. And I know it's a good place, a space for pets who don't have a safe home of their own. When I was abandoned on a highway just a few weeks old, a nice cage with a soft towel in it and a bowl of fresh water, well, I would have given just about anything for that. Still, when I walk by and hear all those desperate barks and meows and squeaks, it gets to me. Sometimes having great hearing is a pain. Thing is, I realize I have a home and the gang in there doesn't, and I try not to think about stuff like that, you know. I mean, it's not like I can do anything about their tough breaks, right? And in fairness, maybe those animals aren't like me. I've always been a resilient, hard-working sort. Maybe some of those guys even made their own bad luck. It's almost like a prison. I also like the word resilient. If you go back to day one, when he kept going, kept going, kept going, would have been a good word there for character trait. Don't get me wrong, I try to be a nice guy. I do what I can to make the world a better place, sure. Chat with the guinea pigs, lick the strawberry jelly off Julia's hand, do my wagon dance when the rents come home to make them feel good. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. But it's like I said before, you gotta look out for numero uno. Guess that's why the shelter harshes my mellow. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna have to look that one up. It's just, you know, I'd rather not have to hear those guys every time I walk by. Makes me sad. Reminds me of the bad old days. Droolius. I knew this guy back when I hung out at the mall with Ivan and Ruby. Nice dog named Droolius. Basic mutt, maybe some lab and golden in there somewhere. He'd done some hard time at a couple shelters. One of those dogs you knew had seen more than his share of the bad stuff the world can throw your way. One ear bitten off, scars, a limp. Julius lived in his backyard. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Chained up mostly. Flies on his food. Empty water bowl way too often. Still, he always had a nice word to say when I'd pass him on my daily rounds, checking out the neighborhood trash cans. Once I saw his owner, again that word, step onto the back porch. Julius was barking, but he had a good reason. A stranger just passed by. Barking is what we're supposed to do in that circumstance, right? That's what mine do. Maybe he's the UPS guy. Maybe he's a serial killer. I mean, come on, we're not the FBI. So anyways, owner came out, big guy, mean looking, gave Julius a hard kick with his boot, yelled, "Shut up, you fool!" Disappeared. Julius looked at me, kinda embarrassed. We kept talking. A few minutes later, the owner came out again, put some towels on a line. Julius headed over, tail between his legs, cowering, saying, "I'm sorry, I love you, I'm yours, yours, yours," with his whole dog being. Guy completely ignored him. Headed back inside. "He's having a tough time," said Julius when the guy was gone. "He's a jerk," I said, because subtlety is not my strong point. "No, he loves me, he does. He has a funny way of showing it." "Humans," said Julius, licking a sore on his leg. "You know how they can be. Do I ever? But we gotta stay true, love 'em, forgive 'em." I thought about that. Thought about it a lot. "Why though?" I finally asked. "Why do we have to forgive 'em?" Julius looked shocked, then confused, as if I just asked why cheese tastes good. "It just does." "That's the way it is," he said. "That's what we do, Bob." I started to reply, but I managed to hold my tongue, which is not easy for me. It's a very long tongue, with a mind of its own. There was no point in making Julius feel worse than he already did. Later that morning, I found half a turkey sandwich, gave the whole thing to him. Well, okay, I had a taste first, but still. Character trait. Forgiveness. Seems like forgiving humans is one of those doggy things we're all supposed to do, like having zoomies or doing bed boogies. It's written into our canine souls. Well, somehow I didn't get the memo, the one that apparently went out to every other dog on the planet about forgiveness. Why should I forgive the humans who tossed me and my siblings out into the night? When you forgive, you lose your anger. And when you lose your anger, you get weak. And when you're weak, you can't get hurt all over again. Keeps going back to that. The art of human watching. By the time we reach the park, the sky is definitely in a bad mood. Personification. Gray clouds galloping like panicked horses. The nervous scent of rain on the way, the kind that makes you antsy in your own skin. When we get near the employee entrance, I hop into Julia's backpack like always. We enter through the special gate where George shows his ID, checks in, and says hi to the staff. Pet dogs aren't allowed at the park, Natch. Foxes, wolves, jackals, my dog cousins, they are, but in my opinion, even though they're technically part of my extended family, they're nothing like dogs. Only dogs have perfected the art of human watching. The smartest thing we ever did was figure out how important the human gaze is. So often, when we follow our owner's eyes, we're rewarded with something amazing. A smelly sock, a glazed donut that's fallen on a smelly sock. We follow every blink, every sidelong glance. We see it, whatever it is, before humans do. We understand before they do. And if there's a glazed donut involved, we eat it before they do. Puppy eyes. It's mid-morning, still pretty early. There aren't many visitors around yet. We've got a meeting in 20. George tells a couple workers, Hank and Sonia, who groan. Just a quick one, going over contingency plans one last time. There's a good vocabulary word. In case there's any flooding. During the last hurricane, a small part of the park flooded, mostly near Reptileville. George helped move cages. He came home smelling like cottonmouths and copperheads. It was all I could do not to barf. Weather Service just issued a tornado watch, Hank says. I thought we were having a hurricane, Julia says. We are, Gus. But sometimes tornadoes are spawned during hurricanes, George explains.
The tornadoes spin up most often northeast of a hurricane center in respect to its forward motion, or the infamous right front quadrant. Most tornadoes form in thunderstorms found within the outer rain bands, which can be several hundred miles away from the eye of the storm, depending on the size of the storm. Once the hurricane or tropical storm makes landfall, conditions become more conducive for tornadoes to form. As the low-level winds begin to decrease its speed due to land interaction, this creates a vertical wind shear profile and can help spawn tornadoes. Hurricane-spawned tornadoes are typically weaker and more short-lived than the long-track tornadoes one may think of in Tornado Alley. This is because the instability and shear profile can be found in much lower levels of the atmosphere.
Julia frowns. But a watch means maybe, not for sure, right? Yeah, but I want you to head home, George says, just in case. Please, Dad, just 10 minutes, Julia says. She's using the special voice she reserved for moments when she really, really wants something from her parents. I guess kids manipulate their moms and dads the same way dogs manipulate humans. I don't know, George begins. I promised Bob. I figure that's my cue to pop my head out and look adorable. So I do. Hey, Bob, says Hank. Sonia reaches over and scratches my ears. I'm pretty popular around the park. I give George my best puppy eyes, and he caves. 10 minutes, tops, he says. Meet me back here. Puppy eyes. Works every time. Now me, I'm making a prediction. They keep talking about the storm that's about to hit. Dad says 10 minutes. Mr. Oog. Here's how I figure puppy eyes got their start. Cave humans were sitting around a fire wearing mammoth fur and grunting about how there was nothing on TV because TV hadn't been invented yet. And some wily wolf thought, whoa, they've got leftover mammoth meat. And he probably whimpered and cowered and did a tummy display and looked pathetic enough that Mr. Oog finally tossed him a bone. And soon enough, a few zillion years later, voila, man's best friend. After all that time, there's a thing, like a magnetic attraction between dogs and humans. We've studied them for so long we can read every twitch and sigh. Suppose it was easier than chasing down mammoths. And I get it, I do. The behind-the-ear scratch, the food in a fancy bowl, the bed by the fireplace. Gotta admit that Julia's pretty fun to hang out with, and I'm grateful, really I am, that her family took me in. Still, I don't need them. You need someone eventually, they let you down, and you end up feeling like a real doofus. There he goes again. I love her, but don't need her. The park. As Julie walks by, sneak peeks out of her backpack, like I always do. We pass the meerkat family poking out from their den holes like the whack-a-mole game they used to have at Max Mall. I see the flashy flamingos with one leg balancing act, and the terrifyingly beautiful tigers, even their cute cubs, give me the willies. Families, I've noticed, take a lot of different shapes. Jim and Joe the penguins adopted an abandoned egg, and they are the sweetest doting parents you ever saw. I see it with humans at the park, too. Families of all shapes and sizes and colors and genders, and yep, they all seem to do just fine. We round a corner past Sea Otter Alley. Oliver and Olivia are floating calmly on their backs, holding each other's paws. It's pretty adorable, I have to admit. But me, I don't need the trouble that comes with family. Babies puking, toddlers whining, spouses nagging. Talk about a design flaw. Feels like foreshadowing to me. Change. The park's pretty big. Lots of twisted paths and fascinating smells. All the parts have names. There's the African Aviary, the Outback, the Penguin Cove, Lemur Land. It's like puzzle pieces of the world, simile. A little Africa here, a little Asia there. Dogs, you can find us pretty much everywhere. Our territory is Earth, as long as we're hooked up with humans, that is. Along the shady paths, volunteer guides will answer your questions. They'll tell you about how animals used to roam one part of the world or another until things changed. Things change. That's one thing I figured out. Don't ever assume a little patch of the planet belongs to you. Things change, boxes go flying. My inner wolf. On our way, we always stop by the wolf habitat. Julia loves wolves, probably because they remind her of me. You have to look hard, maybe squint a little. But if you try, you can catch a hint of my inner wolf. It's in the eyes, mostly. Also in my distinguished profile. I dream I'm a wolf sometimes, and when I wake up, I'm panting and my fur's on alert, and I'm feeling, yeah, the world could hurt me, but I could hurt the world right back even harder. Like there's a dangerous hard part of me chained inside, struggling to go free and just, I don't know, get even. Then I go see what's for breakfast. So definitely a character trait, how he talks about himself. And you can see this section, day 3, we definitely got to see this weird balancing act that Bob has of loving his family but not committing. Even though he is sort of committed, but not committing. And now he's comparing himself to a wolf with the storm coming. We still haven't seen Ivan and Ruby in real time. We've seen them in the past. That's for tomorrow. Awesome job. On to the next. My class, please make sure, again, try to do 5 more lit terms today, okay? Try to mix them all up. Try to do some that you haven't figured out yet. Just take a shot. I'll be doing some videos on those over the next 3 weeks. Awesome job. On to the next.